Welcome, everyone. My name is Rich Shortall. I'm the Executive Officer for FireSafe Marin. Today, we're hosting one of what we call workshop, which is an opportunity for representatives from each of the 5 zones of the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority to talk about all the great work that they've been doing in their zone throughout the year. So today, we're fortunate to have with us Quinn Gardner, who is the Deputy Director of Emergency Management for the City of San Rafael, and Kate Anderson, who is the Hazard Mitigation Coordinator for San Rafael. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Rich. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Great. So Quinn, I think you're going to start and you're going to give a little presentation for us. So when you're ready, why don't you call it up on the screen?
Perfect. Well, I want to thank you and FireSafe Marin for hosting. Like Rich said, my name is Quinn Gardner. I'm the Deputy Director of Emergency Management, and I also oversee our wildfire prevention program in San Rafael and kind of our broader zone as well. And thanks to the MWPA, the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority, we've been able to do a lot of amazing work over the last year. And so Kate and I are just going to go through a quick summary of that, but we're always here to answer more questions of any of our residents if you want to reach out. And so, of course, one of our main goals as we think about how we're going to reduce risk is how do we stop kind of the naturally occurring and human-caused natural wildfires that occur from becoming structure fires, threatening our property and threatening lives. So as we dive in, we do want to consider and make sure everybody's aware that we are taking a very evidence-based, science-based approach based on old research, new research, constantly evolving based on what's happening on active incidents. And we really think that through all this, we're able to develop a really key program that really does focus on a house out approach initially. And it really is important that our residents are taking action. And we're so proud of the action our residents have taken, which has actually helped prevent multiple incidents from expanding across the city. And I do want to just point out that there is also a lot of environmental benefits to the work we do in terms of helping to restore more native ecosystems and things like that we'll talk about a little bit later on. So how are we determining priorities? And the science tells us that the most important thing that we do is what's right around our homes. And so we take a house out approach. We are then looking at access for emergency vehicles as well as evacuation routes to make sure folks can get out. And then we start looking into like our fire roads for access as well as they can serve as strategic fuel breaks, building new strategic fuel breaks around properties, and then ultimately getting to a point of landscape restoration. And again, creating those ecosystems that are more fire adapted. In San Rafael, there's 3 main plans that we reference as we move through our work. Our kind of core document is our 38-point wildfire prevention and protection plan, which was actually developed before the MWPA came into existence and really outlined some of our key priorities, things like defensible space, supporting our residents, managing our open space. We've got our wonderful Marin Community Wildfire Protection Plan, the CWPP, that we use as a countywide guiding document. And then every year we're drafting and developing our components of the specific MWPA work plan, which really is that project specific level of what we're going to be doing that year. And so we're going to talk about the successes of the projects we've had over the previous year. Mentioned really focusing on individual residents. Our public education program is constantly expanding, largely in partnership with FireSafe Marin, as well as some one-on-one outreach we do, our larger scale vegetation management, and then work on evacuation routes. So our outreach and our education, we're able to do in a lot of different ways. We start with one-on-one discussions at our residence and doing home evaluations. And then we offer a lot of different assistance programs and support for residents to help them achieve defensible space, including direct assistance grants, and then also assisting with debris management and disposal. So our home evaluation, our defensible space program is a key component in the city as well as countywide. This is really our opportunity to meet one-on-one with residents at their property level and help them understand the changes they can make to adapt their landscape to be less at risk for devastating impacts from a wildfire and to be not just safer for their own home, but so they're not contributing to dangers within their neighborhood and their larger community. So the city of San Rafael is unique. We do actually have specific citywide vegetation standards that extend beyond the WUI. And so our evaluators are constantly talking to our residents about that. We go out, we do our inspections, we leave information. This year, this fiscal year, I should say, so since last July to now, July 23, we've done over 7,000 individual inspections with our residents. And that within 24 hours after that inspection's completed, the residents can access the reports. We do also do re-inspections. So we'll go out, we'll go back to a property maybe after they've done some work to say, great job, this is what you did, this is the next biggest priority, or working with folks to make sure they're achieving compliance with those citywide vegetation standards. We do also have specific requirements in the city targeting defensible space that will ultimately make sure we're removing wood shake or wood shingle roofs, which pose a significant hazard because that's a huge surface for embers to land on and ignite. So we're working with our residents on that over the next 8 years or so to eliminate the remaining shake roofs that exist in the city. We don't want to just kind of require folks to do things without supporting them in those actions. So we have a few different ways we do that. Our direct assistance program we've been running for almost 4 years now continues to be a key pillar of the progress we're able to make citywide to really reduce our fire risk, reduce our dense fuel loading. This year, we've been able to help over 200 properties. We're using Fire Foundry as well as private contracting crews. Over 1,300 folks have also participated in chipper days and debris disposal. And that's a huge component of providing that assistance because some folks might be able to do the physical work, but removing the vegetation and getting it to the correct and safe place can be challenging. So we're really excited and encourage everyone to take advantage of chipper days for that larger debris. And we've already got a lot more folks signed up, and again, really encourage that participation. On the slides, you can see some before and after images, kind of the left being the before and the right being the after. So we're really focused on removing some of those really dense, oily and inside kind of dead and dry materials like juniper and Italian cypress in those top two images, as well as the Hollywood juniper in the lower image. And so by removing that, we're able to clean up that lower, remove those lower fuels, eliminate ladder fuels, things that can kind of carry fire around a property to a structure, and ultimately really kind of get back to a more native ecosystem as well. We also have our grant program. So there's 2 different grant programs that most San Rafael residents are able to apply for. There's the program the city is directly running, as well as the program that's managed through the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority. So this year, the city-specific program has been able to award, I think, just over 90 grants, which amounts to about $84,000. And that helps folks that might hire a contractor to do work to help reduce their costs. And those grants can also go towards home hardening efforts. One of the most important things with grants is that residents are really doing the most important work first, right? So you want to make sure you're eliminating those fuels within 5 feet around your properties before you're kind of targeting things further away or doing maybe some different home hardening. So we're excited about our grant program and, again, ways we support our residents. And then our outreach and education efforts. So we just wrapped up at the Marin County Fair. It was a great opportunity for our team to be out there and talking to folks. We've also done things like career fairs where we can talk to some of our younger community members in high school and things like that. We're really grateful and excited to participate in the amazing Ember Stomp Festival that Fire Safe Marin and the MWPA put on again this year. And we'll continue to be out in the community at big events, as well as doing that one-on-one education, working with homeowners associations and things like that. So we've done that in the past, and we're even more excited now that we're kind of in a post-pandemic land to be able to do more in-person events. So encourage our community to invite us out to your next neighborhood meeting, and we're happy to chat with you or do community walks. We also have our annual mailers coming out to all of our San Rafael residents, and these go over some great tips, help remind folks about seasonal maintenance, as well as the resources we have available to them. And those will be hitting mailboxes hopefully here in early to mid-July, so very soon. We also leave our door hangers whenever we do our defensible space evaluations. If a resident's not home, that lets the resident know what we found at the property. The inside also includes resources, as well as kind of a checklist of any items we were able to identify from the street if they weren't home or if we walked the property. And then it gives them that access code where they can get online and access their full report that really helps them prioritize the steps they can take to help reduce the risk on their property relating to wildfire. Social media, we're really exciting to be doing even more of this, reaching folks in different ways. We do our in-person events as well as making sure we have our digital presence. So we've started releasing more kind of individual videos explaining different projects we have going on. You see here some things about goat grazing. We're also doing our best to announce where we're going to be for our evaluations as we go neighborhood by neighborhood over the summer and into the fall. So please keep a lookout for our evaluators as they come to your neighborhood, and feel free to follow us on any of our social accounts. Another big project, again, kind of taking that house out approach. So starting with the homes and working our way out, is all of the work we're doing around evacuation improvements. So this starts with our roadside vegetation clearance. So we had over 80 miles that we were looking at. Luckily, a lot of those roadside miles were in good shape, or maybe just needed little touch-ups or things private property owners could handle. We did about 19 miles of treatment, and a lot of that is really focused on what's 10 feet off the roadway. So removing any really dense fuel in that area, as well as making sure we have the overhead clearance so the engine and other large vehicles can get under it, and that you're not necessarily having a fire be able to go over a roadway, low at least. And then we're also continuing our safe parking, or our parking box program. So 2 years ago, we completed the San Rafael Lincoln Hill neighborhood as a pilot program. And then we have expanded that into some other neighborhoods, including Fair Hills, West End, Bristol Park, and are about halfway through Dominican neighborhoods. And what we're really doing there is enforcing existing city laws that say don't park 6 feet from the center. But that also assures that we'll have clear evacuation routes, that vehicles can pass each other, and that our emergency vehicles can get in. So this image kind of demonstrates the stick on the left is a fire truck width, if you will, and the stick on the right is a vehicle to park. So if both sticks can reach, we can have some parking and some vehicles and still have a travel lane. And if they both don't fit, we can't have anybody park there because it restricts the travel lane. So that's the goal with this program, and we'll continue on that. We continue to push Zone Haven and are rolling that out operationally as well. And of course, encourage all of our residents to know your zone. So you can just go to community.zonehaven and learn more about that. And then we continue, especially through our outreach efforts and our in-person efforts, to increase emergency alert registrations. We want to make sure everybody in San Rafael and across the county are signed up for Alert Marin. And that's really our targeted emergency alerting system. And that's just alertmarin.org. Nixle is also a tool San Rafael uses, and folks can just text their zip code to 888-777 to get registered for Nixle. But Alert Marin is the key emergency alerting system that we continue to help residents sign up for. So these maps really demonstrate how broad the work we're doing is. I've touched on a little bit of it, and I'm going to turn it over to Kate here in just a second as she dives into more of our open space and larger land management work. But on this map, these gray lines that kind of are almost everywhere across the city represent the areas that we've done evacuation route improvement on. And so we're targeting a lot of our hillier neighborhoods, the streets with narrow streets, and that'll help those residents make sure we have emergency access as well as evacuation routes. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate, who will talk a little bit more about some of the open space implications that are also demonstrated on this map.
Thank you, Quinn. I'll take it from here. So as Quinn mentioned, a lot of our work you can see covers the entire city. Working from north, from Marinwood, pretty much the border of Novato, all the way down through East San Rafael, and where we border other jurisdictions in the central Marin area. A lot of our work out in the open space is some of our most visible work, and where we spend a lot of our time and effort. Working across the whole city has been something that we've done since before the MWPA, but with this additional funding and also seeking funding from outside sources such as federal grants or state grants, we're really able to make a larger impact. Next slide. All right, so diving into open space and vegetation management, as I mentioned, we're able to make a really large impact on really visible projects throughout the city. The main ways that we do this are through shaded fuel breaks that are around the defensible space zone or the wildland urban interface. We clear along fire roads to give our emergency vehicles access to those open space areas. We supplement a lot of our fuel breaks with goat and sheep grazing as prescribed herbivory. That acts as an initial treatment, but also maintenance. And then two other areas that we're really putting a lot of effort into are broom pulling with the support of our community. And looking ahead, we're planning larger scale projects with other partners as well. Next slide. Fuel breaks are some of the largest projects that we do. And since the beginning of the MWPA, we've been able to do initial treatment on over 100 acres of fuel breaks. These are focused around homes and the defensible space areas that I mentioned. And we still have more to do. We still have 50+ acres that need initial treatment. And at this point, we're already entering a maintenance cycle with a lot of the work that we've done over the last couple of years. And what we can see in the photos, a lot of what we do is limbing up trees, removing smaller diameter trees to create that spacing. And a really important part of that is to show the community and focus groups what we are doing. In the upper left, you can see one of our tours with the Environmentally Sound Practices group, where we did our fuel break and we're able to show people who are interested the good work that we're doing and why we're doing it, where we're doing it, and answer any questions people have. Next slide. Debris management is also a huge part of our project planning, and some of the parts that aren't initially as visible or thought about by the public when we do these types of projects. But for the most part, a fuel reduction zone, while we're removing a lot of fuel, we need to be able to know what to do with that and to make that an ecologically sound process as well. What we're able to do lately is initiate burn piles. This is where we might not have access to remove fuel physically from a project. So if we see on the bottom left, that's the Mount Tamalpais fire crew burning right in the wildland urban interface very safely under really well conditions. We're also introducing other technologies such as air curtain burners, seen in the top left, another way to reduce fuel on site. If we do have to remove fuel from a site, we can use debris boxes, we can chip and haul, and we can also chip and mulch in place. Next slide. We've been making a really big push on our fire road network. As I mentioned before, we have already accomplished 9.5 miles of initial treatment, and we have 2.3 miles more to go that need that initial treatment as well. As you can see in the photo on the left-hand side, French broom and Scotch broom is one of our main targets of this fuel reduction. It's been there for quite a while. The seed bank is really established. It grows back very quickly. And so we've begun initial or maintenance treatment on a lot of the miles that we've already covered so far to help combat that regrowth. Next slide. Prescribed herbivory is one of our favorite tools in the toolbox for initial treatments for flashy fuels, but also the maintenance of some of the fuel breaks that we've done with hand crews as well. This year, we're introducing sheep to our grazing as well. Traditionally, we've been using mostly goats, but now we've got both. So you might see sheep around some of our sites throughout the city. We've been moving through pretty much the same project areas as the last few years on an annual basis because of those fast-growing fleshy fuels. Next slide. Invasive broom removals, somewhere that we really want to connect with the community and support the community to help reduce these fuels in the open space, but also, and we'll cut this part out. I'm going to start over this slide. Invasive broom removal is a way for us to connect with the community and also support their efforts and their desire to remove fuels as well. We've been hosting and helping to support annual broom events, such as the Earth Day broom pull, but we also focus on supporting smaller groups of residents in doing recurring broom pulls that are specific to their neighborhoods or open space that they care specifically about. If you're interested in joining one of these groups or starting one of your own, we're happy to support you, and please contact us at any point. Another big focus is, if you want to start this up, we will help you identify sites, but also assist with that debris disposal as well. Because broom, we don't want to leave on the site or chip on site. We want to be able to remove that because of the seeds. With that, we'll do any questions or comments.
Wonderful. Well, Kate and Quinn, thank you so much. That was just a great presentation and ton of good work going on over there in San Rafael, not surprising. I also think it's important to note that a lot of these projects and sort of the scope of what you do was thought about a long time ago. So this isn't not new to you. And I think that's sort of a congratulations to San Rafael Fire Department and the city of San Rafael. One thing I think was really cool at the beginning is the work that you're doing is science-based. And one of the things you talked about is the environmental benefits of this work. Could you expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, happy to. So I'll start and then I'll let Kate, who is also a registered forester and has an amazing environmental background, dive more in. But one of our large challenges in San Rafael and Marin County is the non-native plants, and inherently our native species are more fire adapted. And so part of that is removing these invasive plants like broom, but also larger scale, to be able to restore things to more native ecosystems that are inherently more fire adapted. It also does just help reduce, right? Fire has been around forever, and in healthy ways is actually a good part of the ecosystem. But because we have homes everywhere, we can't let fire exist the same way. So in some cases, the work we're doing, like through open space management, shaded fuel breaks, and grazing, is trying to mimic to some extent the behavior of fire to reduce that fuel load that a naturally occurring lower intensity fire would do, that we just can't do in a lot of places. Although I will tease that we are hoping here in the next year to really reintroduce fire to the landscape at a larger scale than pile burning, and looking at some larger type of prescription burning or controlled burning, similar to things like the watershed has done for years. So it's not new to Marin, but it'll be a little bit new to some of the San Rafael limits. But Kate, anything to add?
Yeah, Quinn, you hit all the good points. I think just to add on to that, Quinn mentioned that the work that we do in the open space and vegetation management is mimicking the natural disturbance that fire is, that natural disturbance. And doing this work ahead of a more severe fire will keep the ecosystem more intact and more resilient than if a high severity fire came through in untreated conditions. That's a lot of the goals of our work.
Right. Well, I think some of the photos they show are great because when you look at the land, even if you're not a land expert, you could say, gosh, this just looks a lot better. And you're taking groups out there on tours to see that work. And I think that really drives home the point. It's just a much healthier looking landscape. And it's really great that you're doing that. Yeah. And there's one slide that you created was my personal favorite slide that I might borrow from you. I really like the way you came up with your priorities of the projects and how it's based on the countywide prevention plan and the work that the ordinances and whatnot that have already been drafted by San Rafael. We don't have to go over it again, but I just think that thinking of that was really good. And I think that's the direction everybody who's doing this kind of work in Marin wants to keep doing. I did have, I'm sorry, did you want to say
No, I was
something?
just gonna say, I appreciate that. And I think it's really important for folks to know that while like the goats as an example might be one of our most visible things that folks see, it's certainly not the only. And we really do look at taking a 360-degree approach. And that's everything, right? From public education to what folks are doing to their home, as well as to their landscape, moving into that roadway, into that open space, and that there's policies and other layers of that as well, fire-wise communities. So there really is just so many different tentacles of this work. And we look forward to connecting with residents on as many of those different paths as possible.
Yeah, that's great. One question on the home evaluations. Are you using the fireside
Yes.
report. Do you want to expand on that just a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we did transition to the fireside application last year. So we're moving to get all of our inspections in there. So folks that might have been inspected 3 years ago and haven't been inspected since, they're still in an old software program. So that's one of our big focuses this summer, is getting everyone into the same software program. Partly because that program allows people to access their reports from home. We don't have to email or physically send you copies. And the program also really creates a great prioritized checklist, and also links directly into the grant programs. And so it's a really great tool. If you've gotten that door hanger and you're like, oh, what's this, and thrown it away and you lost your code, call us. We can get you your code back. But we really encourage folks to take advantage of that software program. It's also a great tool for us because we can do mapping and we can see where we have really dense fuel loading and where we might need to do some more targeted outreach and things like that. So it's a really powerful system that we're excited to be on board with the rest of the county, and really encourage all of our residents to take advantage of those reports. They really are for you, and help provide the checklist for the residents.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's just a great program. And anybody wants interested in more information, you can go to the Fire Safe Marin website or YouTube channel, and you'll see a walkthrough of the report, and you'll see just how valuable it is for everybody. So another great thing that's going on out there. I also love the direct assistance program, again, before and after pictures. And again, it's, for some people, the grant process is not the right thing. This really just gets the work done. Can you explain a little bit more about who's eligible for that and how you apply for that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a really simple program. And essentially, if there's work that we are requiring that you do, you're probably eligible for the program. We are excited that we expanded the direct assistance program this year to include professional contractors. In previous years, we were always a little limited by the skill of the crews we were using, whether it was AmeriCorps crews or the Fire Foundry crews. And now we have contractors that can do more like complicated tree climbing work, or larger scale removal, if that is what we're asking you to do and telling you to do. So it's as simple as reaching out to us, and we'll look and see if the work kind of meets the standard that we're trying to do. It is not a maintenance program, and I think that's really important for people to understand. Our goal with direct assistance is to help totally remove really dense fuel loading, and then that it's on the homeowner at that point to maintain it moving forward. But that we do have that program available to everybody. And over the years, have probably helped over 500 individual properties through that program. So it's exciting, and encourage the folks that want it or need it to take advantage of it. I also like to pitch that it provides that opportunity for you to put your funding into either re-landscaping or dealing with some other issues that maybe the program doesn't cover. So it's a great opportunity there. Certainly some limitations to it, but overall, we're able to get a lot of great work done.
And again, we see in those pictures, getting rid of that Italian cypress and massive amounts of juniper and all, those are really key actions to making us all safer. Not just yourself, but your neighbors. So good for all of us. This is a little bit of a question for Kate. Kate, when you talk about open space, is the work that you're doing open space that's owned by the city of San Rafael?
Great question. I should have clarified that. So open space within the San Rafael zone includes lands that are owned by the city of San Rafael, but we also partner with other public land agencies, Marin County Parks, California State Parks, and where there's private larger parcels adjacent to those public parcels, we will work with the owners of those as well to create a community beneficial project.
Yeah, it was actually surprising to me to find out how much open space is actually owned by the city of San Rafael. So that itself is a big task. But as you point out, it's all coordinated. This is really I'll give a little pitch for the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority again. It's creating these levels of cooperation and working together, and fire knows no boundaries. So we're doing the right thing here. Of course, everybody loves the goats, and you're bringing in the sheep. I'm personally a big fan of the grazing programs, and we're also seeing the move towards sheep in our area. Just kind of get your opinion on this. One of the reasons we're doing that is the goats have done such a good job removing the heavier fuels. The lighter stuff, the sheep tend to do a little bit better job on grasses and whatnot. Is that what you're experiencing also?
Yeah, it's what we've seen, and also the availability of the animals from our contractor. So it's a little bit of both.
Yeah, it's great. And of course, the burning becomes an issue for lots of people. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of smoke in the air. But we're seeing it all over Marin, and you're doing the smoke that's generated from the burn piles is almost nothing in comparison to what we're going to get if we have a wildfire. And I think that we're seeing in practice now that it's really not a hazard that's affecting people. Is that your experience with that also?
Yeah, that's our experience as well. And one of the ways that we can influence that is picking the right weather days to do that. So we only burn under a specific prescription. And if we're out of that weather prescription or those conditions that are ideal, we don't burn.
Well, that's right. Picking the weather is really important. That's a big deal. And Quinn, I think you mentioned that there may be some larger projects in the future. And this is really what we want. This is what used to be historically here in Marin, and we can do it safely. And you're proving that here in San Rafael.
Absolutely. And that's where some of these shaded fuel breaks and some of this really intensive, right, physical labor on the ground has to happen because of the density. But what we're also doing is preparing the landscape to be able to handle healthy burn in the future. And I'd also add to every time we're intentionally igniting, right, pile burns, larger scale. There's also all sorts of air quality reporting, permitting, monitoring that's happening as well. So there's an intense environmental compliance there. And to your point, the smoke from a controlled environment is much healthier, right? It also doesn't include homes and all the chemicals that we have in that type of smoke. I'd much rather have some grass or some smaller shrub smoke than some of the other things. So our ultimate goal, right, is to protect people and property as well as our natural environment. And fire is a tool in the toolbox. And we continue, just like sheep versus goats, right? We're going to try all these tools and continue to apply the right one to the right problem.
Great. Well, listen, it was just been a wonderful presentation. Tremendous work there. Are there any last words that you want to leave us with?
I just want to thank the entire Fire Safe Marin and the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority team. And like you alluded to, we really are all working together for the common good. And I also want to thank my team. I've got an amazing group behind us, and the stuff that can happen in San Rafael is largely attributed to them. And then the last big thank you is to our residents. It really is important that they are taking that individual action to protect themselves, their families, and their communities, and working together. We really can adapt, right? It is about how do we change and how do we not necessarily prevent, right? We've moved away from saying we're preventing wildfire, and it's how are we living with it? How are we adapting to it? And how are we assuring that we can all kind of live in harmony with the natural world that we want to live in here in Marin? So appreciate everyone's efforts and look forward to continuing the good work as we move forward.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you both again. Just great. And congratulations to San Rafael on such good work.
Great. Thanks, Rich. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Rich. Bye.